There were live cameras on the 5, and Jessica Tarlov and Greg Gutfeld were having another fight. Their on-air rivalry has been built for a long time on heated arguments about crime, immigrants, and who is responsible for running the government. But this argument didn't stay the same. Control was lost in real time as the back and forth became personal and shouts rose. When producers stepped in, the cameras stopped rolling, and Tarlov was let off the set. Fox won't ignore what happened because it went too far. A heated argument between Fox News co-hosts Jessica Tarlov and Greg Gutfeld has become one of the most talked about moments on the 5. This happened after managers were seen asking Tarlov to leave the stage live on TV. The fight happened during a long discussion about immigration, the role of the president, and Donald Trump's return to the political stage. At the start of the show, the hosts argued about Trump's past comments about immigration. Gutfeld said that voters supported Trump because they were fed up with institutions being hacked, like refuge and birthright citizenship policies. Tarlov didn't agree, so she pushed back, showing a difference between people who are in the country legally and those who aren't. Gutfeld kept talking over her and supporting Trump's way of leading, so she couldn't even get her point across. He said that Trump's speed and willingness to work with the media were different from Biden's quieter style. As the argument between them got heated, Gutfeld used the polls to say that Trump has shown that he has the support of the people by rolling back policies from the Biden administration, such as the DEI projects, stricter enforcement, and allowing transgender people to play sports. But Tarlov replied right away, questioning what it means to rule by the will of the people. She warned against cruel politics that looks like kindness. But when she said that, people in the crowd laughed at her, which probably made her feel worse. When they started talking about social aid and work culture, the argument broke down, with Tarlov standing up for Americans who are weak. As the friendly conversation turned into a heated argument, the managers had to step in and take Tarlov away. Suddenly, the show cut to a commercial. It's interesting that this isn't the first time that Jessica Tarlov and Greg Gutfeld have had a big argument about a subject. She speaks for the left, while he speaks for the right. This means they often disagree on different subjects, like the time they were talking about the famous Charlie Kirk incident face-to-face. Fox News' The 5 had a tense argument between co-hosts Tarlov and Gutfeld in September 2025, while they were talking about the death of conservative activist Charlie Kirk at Utah Valley University. Kirk, the founder of Turning Point USA, died while speaking at an event. This started a big argument that almost got worse. At the round table, Tarlov, who always speaks for the liberals, warned people not to make broad comments about political unrest. She said that any claim about the case needed to be backed up with strong facts and background information. She used the death of Minnesota State Representative Melissa Hortman and other tragedies to show that political unrest isn't just caused by one side of the political spectrum. Gutfeld didn't agree with what she said at all. During Tarlov's speech, he even cut him off, arguing that the real question was why violent cases like that one lately seem to mostly come from the left. When Tarlov asked about references to other events, Gutfeld lost it and told her, "Don't play that nonsense with me." He then threw out the idea of a case from both sides. Things got tense very quickly. Gutfeld asked if many people had even heard of Hortman before she died, saying that her death didn't get as much attention from the media as Kirk's. He didn't agree with Tarlov's point of view, and even told her, that issue is over, but that made her even worse. A lot of people watched this online because the two were once again on different sides, arguing in public over facts at a sensitive time for the country. But this isn't the first time they've fought over the both sides debate. While they were hosting The 5, the two reporters fought over the idea of seeing things from both sides. However, there was a shocking disagreement when they were arguing strongly about the abortion laws. On a September 2024 episode of The 5, Tarlov and Gutfeld got into another heated argument about abortion policy, which is one of the biggest ideas that divides people in this country right now. The argument began with Gutfeld saying that the problem of abortion wasn't important to the country in the upcoming election because President Trump and the Supreme Court had essentially given control over abortion back to the states. He said it out loud, "Abortion is no longer a national problem. This means that women voters don't have to make it their only goal." He said that the issue was now more about local voters than about the president. Tarlov strongly disagreed, questioning both the premise and the truth of what Gutfeld said. She used what Trump said recently as an example. Like in Florida, he was ready to let abortions happen after 6 weeks, but his campaign later took back what they said. Then she asked, why did Trump change his mind about that? She said that Trump's political message and stand on reproductive rights were not always clear. As they often do when they don't agree, they kept talking over and then cutting each other off. Gutfeld was talking about the conversation in terms of the election as a whole, while Tarlov talked about real-world effects and changing political realities. Gutfeld said the issue was politically diffused and no longer at the center of national decisions. Tarlov, on the other hand, said that changing positions and ongoing state restrictions kept abortion firmly in the political discourse. Gutfeld and Tarlov have had many fights over the years, and it gets too personal at times. Gutfeld said something that hit too close to home one time, and Tarlov had her own response. Fox News co-hosts Gutfeld and Tarlov got into another public spat on an episode of The Five in 2022, over the tone and feeling they used when talking about Elon Musk's social media activity, and rumors about the attack on Paul Pelosi. The moment started when the panel talked about Musk's deleted tweet in response to a Hillary Clinton post about the event. Tarlov criticized how quickly false information spreads, and Gutfeld called Musk's comments offensive trolling. Gutfeld told Tarlov, "Look at you," as the back and forth went on. "You're getting too upset about this." Basically saying that her response was too affected. The crowd gasped in shock as soon as he said that, and everyone was shocked. Right away, Tarlov pushed back, saying that having a loud voice and being really interested in a story didn't mean you were emotionally overloaded. It was just estrogen. But it was wrong for him to say that she was too sensitive, because that word can have negative meanings for both men and women. As a funny aside, Jesse Waters, another co-host, said that Gutfeld had just told a woman she was too sensitive. As the conversation went on, Tarlov made a funny but serious point of saying, "HR watches this." The other hosts laughed because it was clear she was telling him of the rules and training for the job. Following this, Gutfeld joked, "Is that a threat? That's great." Even though the argument got heated, it didn't stop the section like when Tarlov was taken off the set. When the video clip went viral on social media, it was talked about by a lot of people. Many watchers got used to the back and forth between the two because they are the most famous debate opponents on The Five. But everyone is always curious about what they're like in real life. Insiders say that Tarlov and Gutfeld's real-life relationship isn't just acrimonious disagreements, despite how often and strongly they argue on radio. They also respect and support each other professionally and personally. Everyone thinks that the dramatic verbal fighting that happens on TV is a sign of genuine dislike between the two, but people who know them well have said that their relationship is different when they're not on TV. When they're on TV, Tarlov and Gutfeld always have a disagreement about important political topics like immigration and the role of the president. Most of the time, these arguments get heated, which makes the audience respond strongly. The only liberal voice and the conservative panelists, on the other hand, love to argue about ideas, which is what they forget about these talks. Tarlov said that the way the show is put together is like how people talk to friends and family who have different opinions. In other words, she doesn't really hate anyone, not even Gutfeld. If you look away from the camera, they're not exactly enemies, but that doesn't mean they are close friends either. Gutfeld told Tarlov he was sorry for her loss and would be there for her when she came back to the studio after her father's death. He told her to take her time and that the team would be there for her during this hard time. You might think they would be fighting all the time on TV, so this is very different from what you would expect. Sources close to the show also said that the five panelists usually have to get along off camera to keep the show's balance, even if they argue on screen. People have talked about the show's chemistry, but it's always made clear that the fact that Tarlov and Gutfeld argue a lot during arguments is just part of their job and doesn't mean they are personally hostile. Gutfeld also said that getting angry is normal for them on radio, and that he and Jesse Waters really like Tarlov. He also said that they both feel the same way about each other. People who watch Fox News see Tarlov as a liberal contrast to Tarlov, who is a conservative host. The two of them have openly made up on air, even after big fights, like the heated debate about political violence in September 2025. Later, Gutfeld said he was sorry for raising his voice and that the subject was personal. Tarlov made it clear that she wasn't mad at him. This is just one of the times they show support for each other by making friendly moves behind the scenes. This shows that they get along well, which makes their arguments pretty effective without showing personal hostility. You can learn about other rivalries on Fox News, which I find interesting. A lot of people pay attention to the competition between Gutfeld and Brian Kilmeade, which you may have seen if you watch a lot of Fox News. Greg Gutfeld and Brian Kilmeade have a rivalry that has become one of the most talked about relationships on Fox News. However, it's not a real rivalry. It's more of a complicated mix of on-air chat, different styles, and self-aware humor. Gutfeld, who co-hosts The Five, and is the host of Gutfeld, is known for talking in a rude, sarcastic, and angry way. It's not a surprise that he made Tarlov so mad that Fox had to ask her to leave. Kilmeade, one of the key hosts of Fox and Friends, on the other hand, shows news in a more traditional, honest way. Because they have different voices and ways of talking, they have had many vocal fights on air, broken up by jokes, interruptions, and sharp comments that play to their different personalities. Kilmeade's serious analysis is sometimes cut off by Gutfeld's humor. This is especially clear in panel talks, where Gutfeld's quick wit pushes back against Kilmeade's delivery. Gutfeld's joke that Fox and Friends might as well be cheering for Kilmeade was an interesting moment. A quip that got a lot of attention from the crowd and showed how the two were at odds with each other. Both hosts have said that a lot of what happens on radio is just for fun, even though it looks like things are tense or competitive. During an event where they talked about Gutfeld's book, Kilmeade joked to Gutfeld, "What's wrong with you? Why do you care so much about me?" Gutfeld told Riley that people would worry if they weren't crazy about someone. Kilmeade then said that the jokes didn't upset him, which shows that the competition is mostly friendly. Behind the scenes, Gutfeld and Kilmeade get along well with each other. There is another person who wants to beat Gutfeld though. A lot of Tarlov's competitors are also Fox News hosts. First, Jesse Waters, who is friendly with Gutfeld on the show. On The Five, Jessica Tarlov and Jesse Waters have had a number of angry on-air arguments that show how different their political views are, and how strongly they feel about the show's style. A lot of people are interested in them because of the sharp language and stress that shows up when they talk to each other. During a debate about immigration policy, Waters took a firm stance, telling Jessica again that they are illegal, which was one of the most striking arguments. This made Tarlov question his frame by bringing up cases of many undocumented immigrants who have not been found guilty of any crimes. It began as a discussion about policy, but quickly turned into attacks on individuals. When Waters' lifestyle said something mean, Tarlov replied with a sharp, "Who's going to do your manicure?" It got so heated between them that the directors were signaling for a cut as their voices got louder. Things got personal during the argument, so they had to take a break. They have also fought in other ways. When they were fighting about COVID-19 vaccine access when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was health secretary, Tarlov said Waters wasn't ready for the conversation because she spoke up and questioned his doubts about the rules for who can get vaccines. After that, Waters asked for more information, like who couldn't get a COVID-19 shot, and Tarlov answered strongly, showing how angry and direct their talks were. Besides immigration and public health, the two have fought in other situations as well. For example, Waters has responded to Tarlov's policy points in debates with insults or sarcasm, which has made people react strongly online. Tarlov has also gotten into a lot of fights on TV with other Fox News hosts, like Jeanine Pirro. There have been tense on-air conversations between Tarlov and Jeanine Pirro on The Five because they have strong ideological differences and talk to each other in different ways, which often push the show to the edge. Tarlov and Pirro openly disagreed about how to understand legal asylum and broader enforcement during a debate about immigration policy, which led to one of their fights. Tarlov said that U.S. law must follow due process, and he pressed Pirro on whether coming into the country illegally could really be seen as a valid reason for asylum. Because of this, Pirro insisted that legal entry was the only form of due process she agreed with. They went back and forth, and it became clear that they didn't agree at all. During a section about the car accident in New Orleans, in early 2025, there was another interesting exchange. Tarlov disagreed with Pirro's interpretation of the event, pointing out that the offender was an American citizen, not an illegal immigrant, and saying that Republicans were distorting the story to make it seem like the border wasn't safe. Pirro fought back hard, saying she wasn't making claims about her immigration situation, and that crime related to illegal immigration was still a big problem. The argument got hot, as both sides cut each other off and gave each other advice. Insiders at Fox News say that they once had a fight that got so bad that the production team had to step in to calm things down. These stories say that both hosts talked over each other loudly, with Tarlov refusing to let Pirro finish her points without being interrupted. Because the producers were worried that Durham was breaking down, they quickly cut to commercial. When the show started up again, Tarlov wasn't on the set, which was a surprise that made people wonder what was going on. The shocking feud between Juan Williams and Jeanine Pirro is another one between Fox News anchors. The two have also gotten into loud fights on TV. On the 5 is a Fox News show with a group of 5 people. Juan Williams and Jeanine Pirro have had some of the most heated arguments on air, especially when they were talking about Donald Trump's impeachment procedures. They don't dislike each other personally, but they have argued loudly on live TV many times, showing how heated political talk shows can get. Williams, who is known for being the liberal voice on the panel, brought up ABC News Ipsos polling that showed most Americans thought it was wrong for Trump to ask a foreign leader to look into a political rival. This led to one of the most famous arguments during the impeachment inquiry. Even though Pirro is a conservative and a strong supporter of Trump, he quickly disagreed with his view. She said that Democrats were calling impeachment a bunch of hogwash, a bunch of telephone, a bunch of rumors, and hearsay, dismissing the proceedings and criticizing the tactics of the opposition. Williams kept bringing up the poll and telling people that they should pay attention to the impeachment hearings. The argument quickly got worse. For about 30 seconds, the two hosts yelled over each other, with Pirro snapping, "Don't tell me to stop, I'm a judge." And Williams replied, "As a judge, you should know better." Then Pirro yelled, "Don't go there, don't go there." Because the argument got so heated, other co-hosts, like Waters, had to step in to guide the show back to the bigger point of view and end the fight. The heated argument was widely reported in the news as a big scandal. In fact, there are constant arguments between co-hosts on The 5, which has become a signature part of the show's personality. A lot of people and media outlets have strong feelings about it, especially after Jessica Tarlov was kicked off the set by Fox managers after her tough fight with Greg Gutfeld. By intentionally including liberal commentators like Jessica Tarlov and Juan Williams, along with conservative commentators like Greg Gutfeld, Jesse Waters, and Jeanine Pirro, the show's format almost guarantees heated debate, frequent interruptions, and raised voices, as panelists try to defend very different political views. Across shows, these arguments always get worse and worse until they become heated arguments. This pattern was clear in a recent discussion about gun control, where Juan Williams pushed for closing loopholes and making mental health tools bigger. Co-hosts like Waters and Gutfeld kept chiming in to contradict his claims and question how he was framing them, which led to a lot of back-and-forth crosstalk. Media experts say that these 5 cable news shows have some of the most heated panel discussions of the year, especially after big national events and political flashpoints, because of how often and how badly they get into arguments. One well-known case is when Tarlov and Gutfeld had a big fight because Charlie Kirk was killed. But many people say that the 5's charm comes from the fact that they are always fighting. Different points of view and lively discussion are what make the show fun and keep people interested. They always cut each other off and question each other's facts. After all, the competition between Tarlov and Gutfeld didn't start in one event. They've been fighting all the time for years. Which side are you on? Type your ideas in the box below. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.